Welcome to Sleep Story. Let the soothing cadence of a story weave through your consciousness, lulling your body to rest and your mind to tranquility as you drift into dreams on the wings of imagination.
Cowpie saw two women crying, and drew his sword to chop them. Suddenly, he saw a red light, so he pressed the sword and asked, "Who are you?" A woman said, "Concubine is General Yuan's wife Liu also," Pai said. "Who is this woman?" Liu said, "This man Yuanji's wife's and also, because the 11th town Yojo, Zhen's refused to travel, so stay here." Pai dragged the woman near the front, see the hair and dirt. Pai to shirt sleeve to wipe its face and look. See Zhen's jade muscle flower appearance, have the color of the country. He said to Liu, "I am the son of Prime Minister Cao, willing to protect your family. You do not worry." Dao pressed the sword to sit in the hall. But said Cao led the generals into the city of Hebei. "Will enter the city gate. So you horse close to the front," pointing to the city gate with a whip, and called the drill said, "A concealer, you do not want me. How can I get into this door?" He laughed. The generals heard the words, "All of them are not equal." Fuck to the Shao house door, asked, "Who has entered this door?" The guard said, "Shizzy inside." Fuck called out to blame. Liu's out of worship said, "Nong Shizzy cannot protect my family. I would like to offer Zhen's for Shizzy to carry a broom." Cao taught to call out Zhen's worship in front. Cao looked at her and said, "Is she really my wife?" He then ordered Cao Pai to take her. Fuck established Jizhou personally to the tomb of Yuan Shao, set up a sacrifice, and then worship and cry very sad. Gu said the official said, "In the past, I and Benchu together to start the army. Benchu asked me that. If things are not serious, the aspect of what can be based on. I asked, what do you want? Benchu said, I am based on the river in the south, the north to block the Yan dynasty, and the desert of the crowd, the south to fight for the world. So can I help? I replied, I let the world's intelligence. With the road to the imperial, nothing is impossible. The words as yesterday, and now the beginning of this has been lost. I cannot help but for the shedding of tears also. Everyone sighed. Fuck to gold, grain, and rice to Xiao's wife Liu. Is ordered. Obey residents by the military revolution. All free this year's rent. On the one hand, he wrote a table to apply to the courts. Cao led the Jizhou pastor. One day, Su Chu walked his horse into the east gate. Is to meet Su Yu, Yu Culture said. You do not have me. How can I get in and out of this door? Chu said, angrily. We have 1,000 lives and thousands of deaths, and we risked our lives in bloody battles to take the city. How dare you boast? You cursed. You are all men. How can you say that? Chu was furious, and drew his sword to kill you, and brought his head to Cao, saying, Su Yu is so rude. I will kill him, Cao said. Zi Yuan and my old friend, so play with the ear, why kill it? Deep responsibility Su Chu. Su Yu is buried. It is made to visit the Ji state sages. Ji people said. Cavalry Lieutenant Kui Yan, word Ji Gui, King East Wu Cheng people. Several had offered plans to Yuan Shao. Shao did not follow, so he took illness at home. Caviar called Diem as the state special driving engagement and said, yesterday, according to the state's household registration, a total of 300,000 people can be called a large state, Diem said. Today the collapse of the world. The 9 states, to Yuan brothers fight each other. G people riot bones in the wilderness. The Prime Minister is not anxious to ask about the customs, to save their plight. But the first school census, Is not the state of the women of the people hope that the Mingong it? Cao heard, changed his face and thanked him, and treated him as a guest. Cao had already settled Jizhou, and asked his men to find out the news of Yuan Tan. Tan led his troops to plunder Ganling, Amping, Bahai, Hetao, etc. He heard that Yuan Shang was defeated and left Zhongshan, and then attacked him with his army. When he heard that Yuan Shang had been defeated in Zhongshan, he attacked him with his army. Shang did not want to fight and ran to join Yuan Shi in Youzhou. Tan surrendered all of his men and wanted to go back to Jizhou. When Cao called him, Tan did not come. He was furious and sent a letter to break off his marriage, and then led a large army to conquer the area, arriving at the plains. When Tan heard that Cao was coming with his army, he sent someone to ask for help from Liu Bao. Table asked Zhuanda to discuss the matter. Zhuandi said, "Now the fuck has broken Jizhou. The army is flourishing. Yuan's brothers will soon be captured for the fuck, save the useless. Situation fuck often have Pete Jingshong intention. I only raise the troops to defend themselves. Cannot be moved," Table said. "Then how to thank?" Zhuandi said, "Can make a book with the Yuan brothers, in the name of reconciliation, polite words of thanks." The table of his words first sent people to the book left Tan. The book said, "A gentleman is not fit to hate his country. A few days ago, I heard that you surrendered to Cao on bended knee. Is to forget the revenge of the ancestors, abandon the friendship of the hands and feet, and the shame of the alliance is left. If Jizhou is not a brother, we should surrender our hearts and follow each other. After the matter is settled, so that the world to level it straight and narrow, is not also high righteousness." He also wrote to Yuan Shang and said, "Qingju's nature is so harsh and anxious that it is obsessed with the straight and narrow. You should get rid of Cao first, so that you can end your late husband's hatred. After the matter is settled, you should consider the right and wrong, isn't it good? If you do not return, you will be trapping Honlu and Dongguo in front of you, and leaving Chafu's gains behind." When Tan received the letter, he knew that he had no intention of sending troops, and he thought that he would not be able to defeat Cao, so he abandoned the plains and left to protect Nampi. Cao chased him to Nampi, where the weather was so cold that the river was frozen and the grain ships could not move. Cao ordered the local people to knock on the ice to pull the boat, and the people fled on the order. Cao was furious and wanted to arrest and behead them. The people heard was personally to the camp to cast the head. Cao said, "If I don't kill you, I can't do my orders. If I kill you, I can't bear it. You quickly hide in the mountains. Don't be captured by my soldiers." The people went away with tears in their eyes. Yuan Tan led the troops out of the city, and Cao army enemy. The two formations against the round play out of the horse with a whip pointing Tan, unscolded. "I treat you kindly. Why do you have a different heart?" Tan said, "You violate my realm, seize my city, rely on my wife, say I have a different heart." Cao was furious and made Su Wong go out. Tan made Peng An to fight. The two horses, not a few rounds, Shang beheaded Peng An under the horse. Tan's army was defeated and retreated into Nampi. Cao sent his troops to surround him on all sides. Tan panicked and asked Din Ping to meet with Cao to surrender. Cao said, "Yuan Tan boy, capricious, I cannot trust. Your brother Din Bai, I have been reused. You can also stay here." Comment said, "Prime Minister is poor. I heard that the Lord Noble Minister glory, the Lord Worrying Minister humiliation. A long time, Yuan. How can I back?" Cao knew he could not stay, and sent him back. The evaluation of the return to see Tan said that Cao is not allowed to surrender. Tan scolded, "Your brother is now working for Cao Cao. You have second thoughts." Comments, gas-filled chest, fainted on the ground. Tan made to help out, died in a short while. Tan also regretted it. Guo Tu said to Tan, "In the coming day, we will drive the people to the front and follow them with our army to fight Cao Cao to the death." Tan followed his advice. That night, he drove all the people of Nampi to follow his orders with swords and spears. At dawn the next day, the 4 gates were opened wide. The army was at the back, and the people were at the front, shouting and shouting, and all of them came out and arrived at Cao Cao's fortress. The 2 armies mixed battle. Since the hour to noon, victory or defeat is not yet divided, killing people all over the place. Foxy not won the whole victory, abandoned the horse on the mountain, personally beat the drum. Generals see it, hard forward, Tan army defeated. The people were killed in countless ways. Cao Hong excitedly burst into the array. "Is to meet Yuan Tan," raised his sword hacking. Tan was Cao Hong killed in the array. Guo Tu saw the array of chaos, rushed into the city. Legend saw, bow and arrow, shot down the city trench. Men and horses are trapped. Cao led his troops into Nampi to pacify the people. Suddenly, there was an army that came from Yuanji's generals, Zhao Tuch and Zhongnon. Cao led his army to meet them. The 2 generals surrendered. They surrendered and were awarded the title of Liho Marquis. Zhongyan, a Black Mountain thief, led 100,000 troops to surrender and was named General Pingbai. He ordered Yuan Tan's head to be beheaded if he dared to cry. Yuan Tan's head was hung out outside the north gate. A man in a poorly dressed cloth crown cried under his head. The left and right brought him to see Cao. Cao asked him he was Wang Zhu, who had been expelled for his advice to Yuan Tan, and now that he knew that Tan was dead, he came to cry. Cao said, "Do you know my order?" Zhu said, "Yes." Cao said, "You are not afraid of death?" Zhu said, "I was born by his life, death, and not cry, not righteousness. Fear of death and forget the righteousness. How to establish the world? If I can bury Tan's body, I have no hatred for being killed," Cao said. "Obey righteous people. Why so many also? It's a pity that Yuan can't use them. If I could, I would not dare to look at this place." So ordered to bury Tan's body. Ritual repairs the guest of honor. As the secretary Jin Zhonggong asked, "Yuan Shong has cast Yuan Shi. Take it should use what strategy?" Zhu did not answer. Fox said, "Loyalty also?" Asked Guo Jia. Jia said, "You can make Yuan's surrendered generals Zhao Tuch, Zhongnon, and other self-attack. Fuck with his words." Then sent Zhao Tuch, Zhongnon, LV Kwong, LV Xiong, Moyan, Zhongyi, each leading the troops, divided into 3 ways to attack Youzhou. One side, so that Li Dian, Lejin will join Zhongyan, Plain and State, attack Gaogan. On the other hand, Yuan Shong and Yuan Ji knew that Cao's soldiers were coming, and expected that it would be difficult for them to meet the enemy. So they abandoned the city and drew their troops, and ran to Liaoxi to join Wuhuan. Wuhuan To, the governor of Youzhou, gathered all the officials of Youzhou and took a blood oath to discuss the matter of turning their backs on Yuan and turning to Cao. Wuhuan Tuch first said, "I know that Prime Minister Cao is a hero of the world, so I am going to surrender now, and anyone who fails to comply with the order will be chopped off." They took the blood oaths one after another, and then followed to Han Henk. Hengist, throwing the sword on the ground, shouted, I was Yuan Gong, father and son of the generous grace. Now the Lord's defeat. Wisdom cannot save. Courage cannot die. In the lack of righteousness, if the north face and surrendered to gymnastics, I do not for also, all lost color. Wu Huan Touch said, husband to rise great things, when the establishment of great justice. Whether things are good or not, do not wait for a person. Han honors his ambition, let him do as he pleases, push Honingen out. Wu Huan Touch is out of the city to meet the 3 military horses, and came to surrender to Cao. Fuck was delighted, added as Jinbei general. Suddenly scout horse to report, Le Jin, Li Dian, Zhongyan attacked and state, Gao Gen guarded the mouth of the pot pass, cannot go down. Cao had his own troops traveling there. The 3 generals then said that it was difficult for Gan to resist the pass. Cao gathered all the generals to discuss the plan to break Gan. Shenyu said, if we break the dry, we must use the fraudulent surrender plan. Cao ran. He called the surrendered generals LV Kwong and LV Xiong, and whispered so and so. Leave Kwong led dozens of troops to the bottom of the pass and said, we are Yuan's old generals, but we had no choice but to surrender to Cao Cao. Cao Cao is a treacherous person. Treat us thinly. I now also help the old master. We can open the switch quickly and accept each other. Gao Gen didn't believe him, and only taught the 2 generals to speak from the upper gate. The 2 generals unloaded their armor and abandoned their horses, and said to Gao Gan, Cao Cao's army is new, so we can take advantage of its uncertainty to rob the fortress tonight. I would like to be the first. Yu Shi, from his words, is the knight to teach to LV first. Lead more than 10,000 troops to go. When they arrived at Cao's fortress, the shouts behind them were loud, and the ambushed soldiers rose up in all directions. Gao Gen knew that it was a trap, rushed back to the city of Huguan. Le Jin, Li Dian has seized the pass. Gao Gen took the road to escape, to cast Shonyu. Cao led his troops to block the entrance of the pass, and made them chase and attack Gao Gan. When Gao Gan arrived at Shonyu's boundary, he was greeted by King Zhu Oxion of Baifeng. Dry dismounted and bowed to the ground, said Cao Cao annexed the territory. Now want to violate the prince ground, 10,000 begging for rescue, with the force to restore, in order to protect the north. King Zhu Oxion said, I have no grudge against Cao Cao. How could he invade my land? You want me to make a grudge against Cao Yi? Shouted back Gao Gan. Gao Gan had no choice but to join Liu Bao. When he arrived at Shangluo, he was killed by Lieutenant Wang Yan, who sent his head to Cao Cao. Cao Cao made DM a marquis. After the establishment of the state, Cao Cao discussed to attack Wuhan in the west. Cao Hong and others said, Yuan Shi, Yuan Shong defeated, and will die. The force is exhausted, far away from the desert. I now lead the troops to the west. If Liu Bao take advantage of the weakness to attack Zudu, I cannot save the response, for the trouble is not shallow. Please return to the division, do not enter the top. Guo Jia said, what you said is wrong. Although the Lord of the world, the desert people rely on its remote, will not be equipment, take advantage of its unpreparedness, and then hit, will be able to break also. And Yuan Shao and Wuwan have grace, and Shong and Shi brothers still exist, cannot be removed. Liu table sit and talk about the guest ear. No, that talent is not enough to royal Liu Bei. Heavy appointment of the fear cannot system. Light appointment of the preparation is not for use. Although the virtual country expedition The public is not worried, Fuck said. Feng Zhao's words are very good. So rate the size of the three armies, car thousands of vehicles, look forward to send. But see the yellow sand desert, gusty winds, road rugged, difficult to travel. Cao has returned to the heart of the army, asked Guo Jia. Jia at this time not ambush soil and water, lying sick on the car. Fuck sobbed and said, because I want to level the desert, so that the public traveled a long way to hardship, to the point of getting sick. My heart is not at peace, Jia said. I feel the Prime Minister's great kindness, although death cannot repay 1,000 times, Cao said. I see the rugged north, want to return to the army. How? Jia said. Soldiers value speed, now thousands of miles to attack people. Provisions and more difficult to tend to profit. It is better to light troops and road to go out, cover their unpreparedness. But must know the path for the guide here. So he left Guo Jia in Yizhou to recuperate, and asked for a guide to lead the way. Yuan Shao's old General Chashu was recommended to know this area well, and he was summoned to ask him about it. Shu said, this road has water in autumn and summer, shallow not through the car, deep not carry oars, the most difficult action. How about returning to the army? From the mouth of the Lulong crossing the White Sandalwood danger, out of the empty land, close to the fronts of the Liu Cheng, to cover up their defenses. Stepton can be captured in one battle. The army followed his advice and appointed Zhongchu as General Jingbai, a guide, as the forerunner. Zhong Liao as the second. Liu table sit and talk about the guest ear. No, that talent is not enough to Royal Liu Bei. Heavy appointment of the fear cannot system. Light appointment of the preparation is not for use. Although the virtual country expedition, the public is not worried, Fuck said. Feng Zhao's words are very good. So rate the size of the three armies, car thousands of vehicles, look forward to send. But see the yellow sand desert, gusty winds, road rugged, difficult to travel. Cao has returned to the heart of the army, asked Guo Jia. Jia at this time not ambush soil and water, lying sick on the car. Fuck sobbed and said, because I want to level the desert, so that the public traveled a long way to hardship, to the point of getting sick. My heart is not at peace, Jia said. I feel the Prime Minister's great kindness, although death cannot repay 1,000 times, Cao said. Shu sniveling said, a negative righteousness fleeing people here, the grace of all live, for the lucky more than enough. Cannot sell Lulong's fortress to invite the reward and wealth. I would not dare to die to receive a marquis. Cao Yi's was worshipped as the speaker of the council. Cao comforted Shonyu and other people, collected 10,000 horses, and returned to the army on the same day. At that time, the weather was cold and dry. There was no water for 200 miles, and the army lacked food, so they killed the horses for food and chiseled the ground for 30 to 40 zhong before they could get water. Fuck back to Yizhou, rewarded the first had advised. Because said the general said, loan before the danger of the expedition by a fluke success. Although the victory, God's blessing, not for the law. The advice of the gentleman is the plan of 10,000 security, is to reward each other. After do not be difficult to say. When Cao arrived in Yizhou, Guo Jia had been dead for a few days, and his coffin was in the public house. Cao went to sacrifice, cried, Feng Zi died. Is the sky bereaved me also? Looking back at all the officials, he said, all of you are of the same age as me. But Feng Xiao is the youngest, and I would like to entrust him with my future career. I do not expect to die in midlife, so that my heart breaks. Jia's left and right will be the death of Jia. Sealed book was presented to say, Guo Gong dying. Handwritten book. This side, Prime Minister from the book said. Liardong matter is certain. Fuck open the book to see, nodding his head in contempt. All of them do not know the meaning. The next day, Shahu Dun led the crowd said, Liardong Taishu Gongsun Kong, long time does not serve. Now Yuan Shi, Yuan Shong and go to the cast will be a future problem. Why not take advantage of its untouched? Quickly go to the conquest. Liardong can be obtained. Cao laughed and said, I don't want to bother you all with the tiger's might. A few days later, Gongsun Kong sent the head of the 2 Yuan to carry on. All the generals refused to believe. Yuan Shi and Yuan Shong led thousands of riders to Liardong. Gongsun Kong, the governor of Liardong, was a native of Xiongping and the son of General Gongsun Du. He knew that Yuan Shi and Yuan Shong had come to join him, so he gathered his subordinates to discuss the matter. Gongsun Gong said, Yuan Shao in the day often have swallowed Liardong's heart. Now Yuan Shi, Yuan Shong defeated and will die. Nowhere to live, come here to join. Is a dove to take the magpie's nest of the intention. If we accommodate them, they will definitely try to come back to us later on. Why don't you kill him in the city and offer his head to Cao Gong? And he will treat me well, Kong said. I am afraid that Cao will lead his troops down to Liardong, and it is better to take the 2 Yuan envoys to help me, Kong said. You can ask people to inquire. If Cao's troops come to attack, then keep the 2 Yuan. If they don't move, then kill the 2 Yuan and send them to Lord Cao. Kung obeyed and sent his men to probe the news. But Yuan Shi and Yuan Shong went to Liardong, and they had a secret discussion. Liardong has tens of thousands of soldiers, enough to compete with Cao. This is a temporary caste, after when to kill Gongsun Kong and seize its land, to raise the strength and resistance to the Central Plains, can be restored to Hebei also. With the discussion settled, he went to see Gongsun Kong. Kong stayed in the pavilion unposed, and only pushed that he was sick and did not meet him immediately. One day later, the police officer reported, Cao Gong's troops are in Yizhou, and he has no intention to go down to Liardong. Gongsun Kong was overjoyed, but he first ambushed the sword and axe in the wall coat, so that the 2 Yuan entered. After seeing each other, ordered to sit down. When the weather is cold, still see the bed on the couch without matting, said Kong. I would like to lay a seat. Kong angrily said, you to head, will travel 10,000 miles. What mat is there? Shong was shocked. Kong shouted, left and right, why not start? Swords and axes hand crowded out. On the seat cut off the 2 heads, with a wooden box storage, so that people sent to Yizhou to see Cao. Cao was in Yizhou, and did not move his troops. Shahu Dun, Zhong Liao into the report said, if you do not go down to Liardong, you can go back to Zudu. I'm afraid that Liu Bao has a heart, Cao said. Wait for the head of the 2 Yuan to arrive. Even if we return to the army. Everyone laughed secretly. Suddenly, it was reported that Gongsun Kong from Liardong had sent the heads of Yuan Shi and Yuan Shong to the city. The messenger presented the letter. Cao laughed and said, not what Feng Xiao expected. He rewarded the envoys and made Gongsun Kong the Marquis of Xiongping and the left general. The officials asked, why is it not what Feng Xiao expected? Cao then produced Guo Jia's book to show them. The book said, now heard that Yuan Shi, Yuan Shong to throw Liardong, Mingong must not increase troops. Gongsun Kong has long been afraid of Yuan's annexation. The 2 Yuan to cast will be suspicious. If we attack with soldiers, we will meet the enemy with joint efforts, and we cannot go down in a hurry. If we slow down, Gongsun Kong and Yuan will try to meet each other, and their situation is also natural. The people all enthusiastically said good. Cao led the officials to set up sacrifices in front of Guojia's spirit. The death of 38 years old, from the campaign for 10 years, more than a miraculous achievement. A later poem said, Guo Fengxiao was born to be a great man and a great hero. He hid history in his belly and armor in his chest. He planned like Fan Li and made decisions like Chen Ping. It is a pity that his body was lost first, and the beams of the central plains were tilted. Operator led the troops back to Jizhou, so that people first helped Guojia coffin in Zudu burial. Cheng Yu and other police said, the north is established. Now also Zudu can be built early under the Jiangnan policy. Fuck smiled and said, I have this ambition for a long time. What you say? Just what I want. It is the night of the Jizhou city on the east corner of the tower, leaning on the fence to look up at the astronomy. When Zhenyu in the side, Drillfinger said, the south of the prosperous gas splendor. I am afraid that cannot figure also, you said. With the Prime Minister's heavenly authority, why not convince? Suddenly, I saw a golden light rising from the ground. You said, this must have the treasure in the ground. Fuck downstairs people with the light to dig. It is exactly the direction of the star in the south of the middle finger, the gold treasure from the north of the ground. I don't know what I got. Let's listen to the explanation below.